Welcome to Mr. International, for the dreamers who feel too much and want way more. I'm a lawyer who hates being a lawyer, and this podcast is my exit plan. Mr. International is a self-help travelogue for empaths, wanderers, and anyone craving freedom from a life that, well, doesn't quite fit. I'm trading courtrooms for countries, burnout for balance, and skepticism for the law of attraction. Each episode unpacks the emotional side of travel, mindset shifts, manifesting a new path, and what it really takes to rewrite your story. One passport stamp and perspective change at a time. What is up, everybody? Mr. International up here in the Heezy. Man, what a wild 3 weeks this has been. I got a lot to unpack. It's midnight, Sunday leading into Monday, but I've just been so emotionally drained that I haven't even had time to sit behind this mic and dish out a podcast to my audience of 0 people probably at this point, but hopefully down the road we can grow this into something bigger. Before I say anything about what's been going on the last 3 weeks, pushing a month now, I want to apologize to a great, very special person in my life who this is the problem. I take full responsibility for everything I do. I can blame being an empath. I can certainly blame my profession. I can blame everything outside of me for when I do wrong. And I definitely made a massive error in judgment, which unfortunately happens more frequently when I just can't think straight. And me not thinking straight and me lashing out and needing to dump all the negativity that's inside of me, thanks to the type of work I do, often comes out of me. I shouldn't say often comes out of me, but ends up coming out of me towards people that, quite frankly, don't deserve it. And that's just unfortunately how it goes. I wish and I hope I can eventually take things out on the people that do deserve it, like rude people and psychotic clients and such. So I want to apologize to my hopefully still friend, maybe not. I guess I'll leave that ball in his court if we can heal this, for a podcast I did put out, one of the first ones I did, talking about Turkey, and I was using a friend as an example on how I was kind of a little bit stressed out on a trip that we had gone on together due to some complaining. I didn't even realize that I didn't even listen to the podcast after I posted it, but I had accidentally said his name, and I shouldn't have done that. And quite frankly, I think I should have aired my grievances to him during the trip or even thereafter. But I think I had a great trip, actually. And, like I said, when you absorb a lot of negative energy, you end up, I'm not referring to the trip or my friend, by the way. When you end up having a lot of negative energy in you, you end up taking it out in other forms on other people. And, as an empath, let this be a learning lesson to do your best to try, when you do have a lot of energy built up. Yeah, we can talk about going out for walks in nature and engrossing yourself in your hobbies, but I'm going to tell something to you that is going to make you uncomfortable, fellow empaths, and that is, quite frankly, I think you should consider giving that negative energy back to the people that gave it to you in the first place. So when you run into a rude client that you really want to tell them to go fuck themselves, or a rude coworker that you just want to tell them to go to hell, instead of going home and taking it out on your family members or a friend, I would say that the best thing you could probably do is talk to that coworker and give it right back to them. And I need to do that to whether it's employees that have had a bad day and they try to take it out on me, or alternatively some dipshit client that's ruined my day or what have you, or tried to anyway. So my apologies to my good friend. I'm not sure if he's a good friend anymore. He is to me. I'm not sure what he thinks at this moment, but Mark, I apologize. I think the apology should always be louder than the error. So If it's any consolation, I think one person listened to that podcast. I think two people. I saw two analytics from that. One was probably me, one was him. But anyhow, so today I want to talk about what's been going on, and the challenges of being in a high stress profession when you're an empath. So let's get on that topic, and I'm going to use some examples that have been going on with me right now. So to that end, let me start from now and go backwards. It took me a couple days to heal. I pretty much had kind of like a meltdown, one unlike I haven't had in probably maybe 2 months. And that's not even good. That's actually pretty bad that I had a previous one only 2 months ago, which is interesting because, I would think this kind of stuff would get better over time as I got older and more mature. But what I'm finding is I'm having these kind of like emotional meltdowns more frequently. And for me, even once every 2 months is completely unacceptable. That I haven't been able to control this. And in this instance, I will blame my profession. I have tried for years, my whole life, to be able to, try to not react to certain things in certain ways. And I'm way better than I used to be. So the little things, I don't get upset when I'm dealing with insane drivers on the road anymore. I've come a long way since then. Just water off my back. But when you're in a profession where so many things are happening all the time, and now I find myself not only dealing with difficult clients, which I knew would happen. Everybody wants things now. They treat a law firm like McDonald's, wanting results now, and that's not how the legal process works. We have stressed employees because we're understaffed. They're dealing with a lot of bullshit from dumbass clients. They dish that back out onto me. I'm wearing 50 hats. It's not enough. Like anybody else, I don't say this to brag, but I'm pretty sure anybody else doing what I do would have crumbled a long time ago. And I know they have, because I've met countless attorneys that don't practice anymore, and they quit after 3 months saying, this just wasn't for them. And I don't look down on them. I actually, believe it or not, envy them. I assist with recruiting sometimes, and I meet people from around the country that were, let's say they're working at a law school now, and I'm like, well, how long did you practice? Some of them say 3 months, and I just knew it wasn't for me. So I think to myself, fuck, so you went to law school for 3 years, probably another year to figure out how to get in there. So you dedicated 4 years of your life to getting into law school and doing law school, only to work as a lawyer for 3 months, and you left. They're like, yep. And I every time I hear that from somebody, it makes me so jealous. I'm not the jealous type. I don't know if I felt jealousy in me since I was probably 10 years old. That's a long story. That was a good friend of mine who was the teacher's pet, and I was jealous that he was the teacher's pet. But Tony, if you're out there, I'm still mad that you were the teacher's pet in Mr. Park's class in grade 5. But anyhow, what I'm finding is that, like, I don't know how the clock is ticked by, and 17 years have passed of me practicing law. And all my life I said I would never be that miserable guy that was in something I didn't love to do. And, here I am. I'm turning into that fucking cliche of one of these people that doesn't like what they do, but they stick in it. And I'm not sure why. I have so many skills to do other things. I don't even need to do other things, quite frankly. I live a pretty lean life. So this past week was kind of like the boiling point of what's been going on for a long time this year. I think the tip of the iceberg, or what tipped the iceberg, was earlier this year, a few months ago, when we fired 2 employees who, in my estimation, were sitting at home. We let everybody work remotely, and these 2 people that we had hired decided to use that as an excuse to just sit home collecting paychecks and lying about work that they weren't actually doing. And, the problem with that is, especially for a small business, that really hurts the business because we're relying on work to get done. And you're taking, in a business where the owners aren't even taking money to help grow the thing, and you're sitting home collecting paychecks and going on vacations, pretending you're not on vacation. These are the people we were dealt with. And, it's been so hard to find good help. I'm not going to generalize and say nobody wants to work anymore. That's not true. We have a really, really, really great crew, great work ethic with great work ethic rather. But there's something about the whole energy behind having these two losers. I don't know what else to call them, because that's how hurt I was about how these people like just treated the business. And I guess I didn't put two and two together because, and when I look back on it, I'm like, why did it affect me so much that these two people were doing that, just sitting at home and not really working and whatnot. I guess now that I'm talking out loud, which is why this podcast is such a great therapy for me, I'm realizing that I think the reason it hurt me so much is because this is my business. I built it. I built it with, I have a partner, I have a couple of partners, but I really, I kind of put the whole thing together at the outset. And like, I take this so personally that I guess I never realized that I was just really hurt that somebody would almost like, I kind of looked at it as I'm stealing from my business, right? Like, so anyhow, that's where things started to really go downhill for me. Like, it put me in a really bad place mentally, made me lash out against one of my partners. Unfortunately, he probably didn't deserve that. But nonetheless, we've been trying to regroup since with, fewer people, or should I say cleaning up the other people's mess. And here we are. And it took its toll on me. And I guess since that time, a lot of me's just gotten kind of over the everyday grind of like, there's always an emergency. Like in the course of 5 days in a work week, part of the problem of, often in being a lawyer is, and not all lawyers, but I'll say this for most, in the course of 5 days of a work week in our profession, there are probably 4 out of 5 days where there's an emergency you have to deal with, some sort of emergency. There's a deadline coming up that maybe slipped through the cracks, or some client comes to you frantic with something and, they're putting pressure on you. There's a million things. And this many years in, it grinds you down. Now, this sounds funny, but if you call 911 here in LA from like a cell phone, good luck. I've called them several times over the many years for different reasons. Thankfully, nothing, major from my personal life, just, seeing a drunk driver on the road or what have you. You would be shocked how many times I've been just on hold for 10, 15 minutes and then just hung up on. And when you're a lawyer, we actually, and this is something I need to get better at, I tend to always answer my phone. I tend to always try to deal with people's emergencies, even though that's not really what I should have to be doing. And so when you're dealing with these uncontrollable emergencies at your doorstep, seemingly on every day, it grinds you down emotionally, mentally, and then, physically. This past week, my paralegal was really coming down on me because she was getting really frustrated, not over anything I wasn't doing. It just like, there's only so much I can do. And she was obviously absorbing a lot of shit from the front line that was flowing back to me. I just can't do more than I'm doing. And it was just getting bad to the point where I just had to start volunteering doing more work that I can't actually do because I just don't have the bandwidth as a human being, right? So, you find yourself trying to desperately to get back to what you really like to do, which is the creative stuff and marketing, daily getting sucked back into this drama, that drama. And, this person didn't get paid, a check went missing, the bank's taking money from the account, they're not giving it back with no explanation. and you're just like in drive and imagine your car in drive and reverse constantly. Eventually the gears just break. And that's what was happening. So I'll give you Friday. This is what where the official meltdown started, but it had been brewing. I hadn't really been in a great place for a while. But Friday, this is how my day went. I ended up needing to go to do a court date that day, which I have anxiety over always. I'm not a court guy, but whatever. So I was already like a little on the edge that I had to do a court date. Wake up at 7:30. By 7:48, a brand new client's calling. I have to take that call. I could let it slide, but it's a new client. Things have been a little slow with the turnover. So I'm like, let me get this call. So no problem getting some info from the client. Simultaneously, while I'm talking to the client, my front door rings here at this house because a worker's showing up to do some work. I'm not even out of bed yet. So imagine you've barely woken up from sleeping, from a dream. And for me, I take a while to get out of bed. I like to meander in my bed for like half an hour before, and shake the cobwebs out. So I get out of bed on the phone, let the worker in, have to like smile and nod, and I get back to my bed, still talking to the client. Thankfully, I get off the phone with the client, tell him I'm going to call him later. Before I can do anything else, I hear another ring coming through my cell phone because I have a Ring doorbell. Some random person has shown up. It's not even to this house, my house. It's to another house we have. And some random person's there. And I see them walking away. And I finally like call out through the doorbell. I'm like, who is this? They're like, oh, we're here to fix your solar system. And I'm like, right away I knew who it was. I was like, well, fuck, I didn't agree to have anybody, a repairman, come to the house today to fix my solar system. Like there's an issue with the inverter. So right out of the gate, I'm like, you can imagine it. Now I'm starting to get really frazzled, right? So he's like, okay, well, can I try to fix it? I don't need you to be here. And I'm thinking, well, don't you need the part to fix it? And he's like, yeah, but the thing is, the part, my neighbor at my other house had picked up the part for me so somebody wouldn't steal it. So I'm like, well, how? So now I found myself in this position where I'm trying to talk to this dude through the Ring doorbell. Now I'm calling his company to figure out why they sent him or to reschedule. And then I'm also simultaneously trying to contact my neighbor now, like at 8 a.m, to see if he can walk over to my house to give the part. This is how my day started. And I know it may sound, maybe to some of you, it's like, okay, what's the big deal? My brain was already spinning, like my head was spinning, like by 8:30. And it's just like, it's just so many simultaneous things going on. And, for an empath, if you're a highly sensitive person or an empath, the problem is we often suffer from information overload. And that is the quintessential information overload, where just too many things are happening simultaneously. Too many people are talking to you. Your brain is scrambling, trying to sort out this jigsaw puzzle of people. A worker here at this house, some repair guy at the other house, a neighbor at the other house to bring him. Like, this is all happening simultaneously, and you're one human being on a stupid cell phone. So that's pretty much where the whole day went back downhill mentally. Like, it got so bad that I couldn't speak properly. Like, I don't want to glorify this at all. I don't know what it feels like to have had a stroke. I couldn't put a sentence together. Like, a nightstand, they were moving a nightstand in my dad's room, and I didn't even know what it was called anymore. I had to call it a wooden box because my brain couldn't, it just started shutting down in terms like, it was too much. Like, I just felt like leaving, and I don't know. So you can see the struggles that we deal with, like when you're already at the tipping point. And this has been kind of like building up for a long time. And it just got to a point on Friday where my brain had just said, okay, enough's enough. And like, I was just, like, well, what does this have to do with the law? Well, part of the problem isn't the law. Part of the problem is just me taking on way too many things that I can handle. I used to be able to handle a lot of things. Now I just don't have the patience for it. And so, you're taking on all these things, a lot of high stakes things, right? This high stakes things being, it's the client, these clients, and, you're in the United States and you're in a country where you're dealing with what could be somebody's money, and, everybody's hard up for money all the time. So you're dealing with a high stakes game where you're getting a lot of pressure from all sorts of angles. So Where I just dealing with renovations, hey, no big deal. But you're dealing with that on top of like running a business, and you're running the front end, you're running the back end, and it's like I just had to stop. I remember I was talking to the contractor at my current house, and like all of a sudden my brain just stopped, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm miserable. I didn't like the constant emergencies with the legal profession, you know. And it's funny. I met a really good friend of mine for lunch who I hadn't seen in years last week, and I didn't even realize this. I know he's back in the Navy now, but he had worked for the IRS. He'd worked for the Air Force. He'd been in the federal government since the end of law school. And I always assumed he had practiced law a little bit just under the guise of the federal government. He's like, no. He's like, since law school, I've always been doing public affairs. And I was like, oh my God. Like, dude, no wonder you look so good. good. And, he's a happy guy. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, what I couldn't figure out was me. Why has it been so hard for me to walk away? What is it? I'm not one of these people that is a legal eagle. I don't love the law. I don't read legal journals and all that bullshit. I couldn't care less about that stuff. I'm not one of these people that are like, I don't live a high life, like fancy life. Yeah, I go on a lot of trips and stuff like that, but I know how to do that on the cheap. So then the question is like, why has it been so hard? Like when is enough? And I remember when I had my biggest meltdown I ever had was back in 2015. And I'll post a podcast that I did back, years ago that really described what I went through back then. I'll post that. I'll edit it a little bit because it's several years old now. And I'll post it for you guys. It was called, That Time I Ran from the Law or something like that. It's my favorite podcast because I still listen to it every now and then to this day. And I was like, it brought back a lot of really good memories of how I was able to finally detach. But after I attached again. So here I found myself, I've now started a bigger law firm. It's like I dove in even deeper with the anticipation that by building something bigger, I could have a smaller or less involved role in it. But unfortunately, the opposite has happened. It's almost like I've started a higher volume practice where I feel like I'm just doing more of the same at a higher volume, which means more pressure. So, one of the problems with this profession is that it can have a tendency to suck you back in, because when your mind heals and your soul heals a little bit, you can kind of rewrite history and tell yourself, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I just needed a break, or maybe I'll just do this differently or that differently this time, so I don't put myself into a situation where I'm feeling like this. I have another good friend from law school who she had the same problem. She had been practicing law and she was so burnt out, like her body started reacting like anybody's would. She started like losing clumps of hair, and that's when she knew it was time to walk away. And so she walked away, and then sure enough, after I'm not sure how much time passed, I'll say a couple of years, she ended up dabbling back in law, and now is back full time, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to her in 6 or 7 months, but she'd gone back full time, back to probably at least different stresses. It doesn't sound like it's as severe as before. But, I've had friends that have had really bad mental breakdowns to the point where they had to be, unfortunately, believe it or not, I'm not even making this up, hospitalized from this profession because they were also empaths and they absorbed so much toxic energy that their bodies couldn't cope with it. I've gone through a lot of that. Honestly, I told my dad this, on Friday when I really had my meltdown. And when I say meltdown, you guys are probably wondering, what does that mean? Did he start throwing phones through the walls? No, not at all. I mean, I tend to internalize things. So I just I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. One of my other paralegal called to talk about cases, and I couldn't even like formulate sentences. I was just speaking really slowly, and I said, "Can we talk about this later?" It was really weird. I even forced myself to go to the gym to try to shake it off a little bit. But my meltdown was just that my body was like, okay, enough. I ended up getting like a really bad headache. Um, my energy was like off the charts bad. I'm sure if another empath were around me, they would have been like, probably would have stared clear from me. I wasn't lashing out at anybody, by the way. I was still nice to everybody. I was just like, I felt very broken inside. I felt like my soul had been broken. It's not like one cataclysmic thing happened too. It's just been building and building and building for a while. I mean, arguably 17 years. I don't know how I'm here. I don't know, most people would have walked. I think those who haven't have died prematurely. I know that sounds morbid, but fuck, this industry has a lot of casualties of war. A lot. There are a lot of people who have died in their 40s and early 50s, just like that. And I was kind of telling one of the workers here at my house who's doing some painting and whatnot. I just told him, yeah, I've been kind of stressed out, and I think he has a Mexican background. That's why I always miss living in Mexico, because they understand life a lot better than people here. Right away, he's like very serious to me. He got very serious, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Man, you have your dad, and like you got people that love you. Like you have to take care of yourself. Like you can't. Nothing is worth what feeling like you're feeling, and like your health is what matters most." Thank God. I mean, I eat very well, and I exercise, and I take very good care of my body. I mean, the stress is shown in other ways. Thank God, nothing major. Unfortunately, like I definitely got like a ton of premature gray hair when I started practicing law, because that's how my body was manifesting all the toxicity, trying to get it out of me. But here we are, and I had started this podcast and what I'm doing now to maybe as an escape hatch to get the hell out of this once and for all. I just don't even know how I've let it carry on this long. I think like I said, I think one can tend to rewrite history. Like maybe things go great for 3 weeks and I'm feeling peaceful, and then shit stirs up again. But the way shit stirs up with me, it's like it's so bad, or I handle it so bad, or like it's so bad to my soul that it makes it feel like it was always like that. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm kind of like spilling my heart out a lot here, but it's kind of, I just realize I don't want to, I keep saying this, but I don't want to live like this. I remember, must have been 2016 perhaps, end of 2015 or 2016, I'd taken on a case that I didn't want to take on because I didn't understand that area of law, and I felt the same gimmick. I felt sorry for the client who couldn't find an attorney, which translates into she didn't want to pay an attorney what they were charging, so she came to me, who was the easy target, because I always feel sorry for people. Took on this real estate case, and I shouldn't have done it. Ended up getting her, just because I end up being pretty good at what I do when I do it. I got her a result she didn't remotely deserve, because those facts kind of came out on the case. It turned out she was full of shit about a bunch of things. Those came out during the whole court process, and I still got her an incredible result that even I will say she she didn't deserve. And even after that result, I remember she called me, she even signed off on everything, she was elated. I remember a day later I was walking from court downtown LA, and she's like, "I don't want this deal anymore." She's like, "I want more," blah, blah, blah. And I just remember I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk with everybody walking around me, and I just said, "I fucking hate my job." And thankfully in LA, like there's so much craziness. At least there used to be in downtown LA when people were pre-COVID. I don't think anybody even stopped to turn and look at me. But I just remember thinking, I fucking hate my job. I just broke my back for you, client. I just got you something you don't actually deserve. You signed off on it, and now you want even more, even after you've already agreed to everything with the judge. And it's like, what do you do, right? This is the nonsense you deal with. Now, it used to be that would be 1 out of every, 100 people. But then over time, you have people that call themselves presidents that act unreasonably, illogically, psychotically, that now give creative license to everybody else to mimic that behavior, because if it's okay up at the top, it's okay down here at the bottom. So now you see, instead of 1 out of every 100 client acting like that, you have 1 out of every 20 clients acting like that. And I've been trying so hard to get myself away from clients. I love signing them up. I love explaining the process to them, but I don't want to deal with anything after that. And that's why I started this firm, but everything keeps flowing back to me. And I've gone through the solo route. I've gone through the solo route with a staff. I've worked for law firms, and now I'm at a bigger law firm that I've started, and I still find myself struggling, and I have no more desire. I have no more wherewithal to put any more of me into this. I don't want to keep trying to adapt to different things. Most of me just wants to say, fuck it. Leave me alone, everybody, and I'll just go figure something else out on my own. But that's what this profession does. And you have to, especially for an empath, where how you feel things it takes on such a different magnitude that if you're not an empath, you won't understand. But even non-empaths struggle tremendously with this profession. Whereas an empath, it's just like, I don't know how I've made it this long. It's not to brag. I don't know. It's more just like, what have I been thinking? Why did I not leave earlier? But there's no time like the present. So I'm setting some internal deadlines for myself that I'm not going to tell anybody. I found it's better to keep some things close to the chest. And let's see where this goes. So I don't know what the lessons here are. I just wanted to air some what's going on. But it's difficult. Like, it's difficult. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just don't want to live like this anymore. And it's funny, like, it took me a couple of days to kind of smooth out since Friday. Today's Sunday. And today I felt like I was kind of back to myself, and I was hanging out, and people were like, man, you're so fun to hang out with, and this and that. And I actually, for the first time, I started feeling more like myself. But all these years, most of the time, I'm not. I'm like, my mind is elsewhere. I'm fretting about something in my head. I have 30 different things going on at the same time. And I don't want that anymore for me. I deserve better than that. And I think you do too. So if you're doing something you don't actually love to do, that's fine. But if you're doing something that you don't mind doing and it's paying your way and you're happy outside of that, that's fine too. But if you're doing something you've come to fucking hate, you gotta just start taking the first steps and get out of it. I don't know anybody. I don't know a single human being who's quit law and then quit law and then regretted doing it. They're moved on to other and better and happier things. So anyhow, this podcast is getting longer than I'd like. I like to keep them a little shorter just so you guys don't fall asleep. I apologize if I lulled you to sleep. You can tell my voice is a little bit hoarse. I must have talked probably like 20 hours straight last week over the course, like over a few days. So my voice is healing, but that's all I wanted to say about this one. I'll get into more details with something probably more substantive in the hopefully in the week to come. But I hope you guys have a good day. Enjoyed this podcast. I hope you got something out of it, especially if you're a lawyer wondering about your next steps, which I'm going to get into more detail perhaps in the next one. And let's wind up let's see what the tide brings in this next week. If there are emergencies, my strategy this upcoming week is I'm just going to keep my phone on silent all day and just check on it periodically. And if I miss something, so be it. That's just what's going to have to happen as I try to recalibrate my senses. So that's it for now. Wherever you are, take care of yourself. Put yourself first. Don't people please. You first, everybody second. It sounds terrible to say, but when you're an empath, you have to keep repeating that to yourself. That's it for now. I'll see you guys on the next one.
When your soul ignites.